USCFootball.com is Ryan Abraham. Ryan, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, guys. Yeah, that was historic to see Jamal Jarrett, 70-yard interception return. As far as we can tell, he is the largest human being to ever score for the USC Trojans.
Hey, Ryan, how long have you been doing the USC stuff? How long have you been going to these games?
This is my 30th season covering the team.
Okay, so you're a perfect person to answer this question. In the last 2 weeks, we've had two long weather delays, including the one that you sat through in West Lafayette on Saturday, which I think lasted 2 or 3 hours. Has that always been the case, or is this kind of new? I understand that when lightning's in the area, you got to be careful. But I seem to think when you and I, and you and I have been doing this around the same amount of time, when we started, I don't remember football games. Baseball games, sure. But football games being delayed by weather, and I've seen it happen twice in 2 weeks. Can you remember that?
Yeah, it's been, as far as we do Southern California, it never really happens here. It's something similar. In 2012, USC played at back east in New Jersey against Syracuse, and that was coming out of halftime. There was some lightning and a little bit of delay. And then way back in 1990 for the Ohio State game in Columbus, they actually called the game with like 2.5 minutes left because there was some lightning. USC was up 9, and they had the ball, and Ohio State didn't have any timeouts. So it was essentially over, and they just called the game then. But I don't remember anything else like this. I talked to people that worked at USC. They can never remember anything like a 3-hour delay like we saw in West Lafayette. It was pretty crazy to be there and just see them empty out the stadium, people walking on the field to get out of the, to the concourse, and then get things going 3 hours later.
So, it's very strange. It's the 8-mile rule. If there's lightning within 8 miles, you can't continue with the game. All right, so let's talk about the game itself. Another really solid performance for Jaden Maiava. And those wide receivers are elite, man. Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon are absolutely terrific.
They're great, and I think Maiava to have 3 games in a row without a turnover, that was really the knock on him at the end of last year, and it seems like that's something they worked on throughout the offseason. What I really liked is they were 4 for 4 on 4th down, and Maiava looked really calm every time they ran a play. It seemed like he knew what was going to happen. They just executed it. There wasn't some kind of fire drill. They were very calm, and they were able to pick up the first downs, and they never ended up punting in this game. And to have no turnovers and to never punt, yeah, they stalled in the red zone a few times and had to kick some field goals, but I really like the way Jaden Maiava is playing, and to be able to get Jacoby Lane deep and just hit him in stride a couple of times. And whenever you get the ball to Mekhi Lemon, he can run and make moves. So I think it's working really well. Have those two kind of alpha receivers, and then Jaden Maiava just dish it to those guys.
Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com is with us. Ryan, explain the 8 p.m. Eastern time start. It's fine for us, but if I go to Michigan State, or if I'm a Michigan State fan, and this game's going to kick at 11:15 at night, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's crazy, and then they just announced this morning that USC's next game at Illinois is going to be Big Noon Kickoff, so that's a 9 a.m. game. So just for USC, 11 hours difference in kickoffs between the 2 weeks. But it's a huge disadvantage, I think, for Jonathan Smith and the Michigan State Spartans to have the body clock where you're going to be kicking off at 11 p.m. local time for them. I think that's going to be tough. And as you know, this is television. It's just going to be, but to have the kind of extremes to go from one really late kick to one really early one the next week is going to be weird. It should be okay for USC on the road, but for Michigan State, they might have to come out a couple days early and see how that works. That's going to be a weird one.
I want to ask you one more question about Saturday's game. So Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, both look really, really good. I'll tell you what, Eli Sanders, is he the fastest guy? He's certainly one of the fastest guys on the team, right?
He, the transfer from New Mexico, he is really fast, and when he gets the ball in space, he just makes things happen. But maybe Tanook Hines, the freshman wide receiver, who is really their number 3 guy, nearly had a spectacular one-handed catch in that game. He might be the fastest guy on the team, but to get a guy like Wayman Jordan, who's I think he can be your bell cow, running back and do everything. Sanders comes out of the backfield, man, and when he gets a little bit of space, he can be gone. So, yeah, it's nice to have some speed on the outside for there. And I think as Hines comes along, it's going to help out this offense a lot. But Sanders coming out of the backfield, I think they know they can mix things up with him and really put pressure on a defense.
Ryan, I want you to pretend you're Danton Lynn, the defensive coordinator at USC. UCLA calls you and says, hey, Danton, you were here before. You had great success. We will make you the head coach. We'll give you a raise from what you're making at USC. What happens then? Do you take the job, even though it doesn't look like they really support football? Does USC come back and give him more to try and keep him? How do you think that would play out?
I think on the USC side, they already stepped up, and he's one of the highest, if not the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, because Penn State, where he went to school, came after him in the offseason, and they end up getting Jim Knowles from Ohio State, who just won a national championship. But I don't think you can put up enough money to prevent one of your coordinators from becoming a head coach. So I think it's going to come down, if that was something that was offered. And UCLA's a tough spot because you want an inexperienced head coach. You just did that, and that didn't work very well with Deshaun Foster. But I think it would be hard to say no when you have that opportunity. Now, he might get a lot of other opportunities if there's other things out there that you can be a little bit more, I guess, picky. But to get a head coaching offer in the Big Ten is a big deal. And
right.
He coached there. I think he would know more than anybody if he think he could win. But I think that would be hard to turn down.
What other names have you heard? Have you that might be possible for that UCLA job? Have you heard anything?
I mean, not just like kind of the big ones that are out there, but it's going to be interesting to see not just who they hire, but who's going to make the hire. There's a lot of pressure on Martin Jarmond, and feel like that he might not be the guy for the job. So that's a tough one, John. I mean, just 3 games in. I mean, this kind of reminds me of like the Steve Sarkisian thing where you only coach for like 15 games, and it's just really short. But that New Mexico game was just. We were watching that in Indianapolis. It was like crazy.
Yeah. All right. Last thing for you. So coming into the year, there was lots of trepidation. I don't know. Is this going to work? Is Jaden Maava going to be the quarterback that transcends everything? Is Lincoln Riley going to kind of figure stuff out? Chad Bowden, what he did as general manager, all that stuff. Is there general optimism on the message boards, or what is the attitude right now?
I think there's some pretty decent optimism because if you look at the game, the Purdue game, where a lot of things went wrong and USC still won, I think last year when stuff like that would go wrong, you probably lose that game. So some of that offseason prep, like you mentioned with the personnel and Chad Bowden, I think Tremaine Carroll bringing him in from Kansas State as the new strength and conditioning coach, I think that helped. They just seem to have a better attitude. So I think in general, there is a lot more optimism. There's still people that are wait and see, go on the road and beat Illinois in a couple weeks. That would be a big one. But we kind of expected USC to come out of the gates 4-0. So far, they've been doing that. They're kind of shooting par right now. You can really step things up, though, if you get one of those tough road games, if you bring a victory on. Because a lot of people just assume you're going to lose to Illinois or Notre Dame or Oregon. And go out and win one of those games, and now I think the optimism steps up even more.
Right, steal one of the 3. That's what I say. Steal one of those 3.
All right, last thing for me, Ryan. How much of an issue is Michigan State? Obviously, they're not what they were when Mark D'Antonio was there, when they were a top-ranked team, but they're still in the Big Ten, and Jonathan Smith has had success in other places. What do you think about this Saturday? What challenges does Michigan State pose?
They haven't lost a game, but they were in double overtime, I think, with Boston College, who, doesn't look that great. I'm not super high on the Spartans, but I like Jonathan Smith as a coach. I think the key is going to be Aiden Childs, who last year just turned the ball over a ton. He can be a really electric player at quarterback, but putting the ball in harm's way, similar to what we saw from Jaden Maava. But there was I think there was more lows with Childs, and he's looked a lot better, I think, through the first few games. So he's someone that can come in and put a lot of pressure on a defense. And USC's defense, they've had some problems where they got some big plays with turnovers, but they kind of give up a lot of yards too in the game. So that's going to be the key thing to watch. How well does Aiden Childs play? They've been forcing turnovers and get a lot of pressure. If they can do that to him, it's going to be a problem for Michigan State. But it's certainly, this is a game that USC is capable of losing, but I don't think this is one of the upper echelon teams in the Big Ten. So it's a good opportunity for USC to go out, play a good game, and then, get the win before you go on the road to take on Illinois.
See you late night Saturday, Ryan.
See you there, guys.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan Abraham, USCfootball.com. That's the worst part. It's like going to the game is really no fun when it's at 8 o'clock p.m.
Have you decided